915 High School Football Insiders out here for the first preseason interview of the season. Out here with Coach Ruben Torres, brand new head coach out of Franklin High School. Coach, how you doing? Welcome back to the 915.
Doing great, man. I'm excited to be back home. It's been a while.
Outstanding. So I know a lot of the people are familiar with you, but we got a lot of people who might not be. You've been out for a while, doing great things, but you're coming back. Tell us about your coaching resume, kind of your coaching tree, where you come from, how you got started, and what brought us to right here, from the time you started playing football as a young man till you started coaching.
Yeah, so as far as the coaching tree, first guy to ever give me a head job was Todd Clark, who I actually played for when I was in high school at Irvin. He was a defensive line coach and a freshman offensive coach. But I started off at Isleta High School and got there in 2026. Kind of worked my way up from a freshman coach and then eventually the offensive coordinator. And then in 2012, I took over as the head coach. And that's kind of really where I cut my teeth as far as coaching and being a head coach. But, that was a rough first year. We went 1-9, won the first game of the year against Bowie, and we thought we were God's gift to coaching and rattle off 9 straight losses, right? And so you learn real quick. You better start changing or you're not going to last very long. But the time at Isleta was great. Probably one of the best things that could have happened for me. When I look back at it, it could have gone one of two ways. It could have gone really good, and I think I would have never got a chance again to be a head coach. Fortunately, I had some great guys around me, great staff, great administration, and we were able to get that thing turned around. And Coach Martinez took over for me when I left to El Dorado, and he's done a great job since. From there, I went on to 6A El Dorado, which was a big jump, from Isleta to El Dorado, but I felt like I had done and proven myself as a coach at Isleta with the things we did. And so we jumped in there and we had a lot of talent. The interesting thing about that was my brother Mark, Pebble Hills had just opened and he took over Pebble Hills.
Heard of that guy once or twice around here.
Yeah. And so, the school got split.
There we move on. Out of town. What real quick, let me throw a quick question to you. Because we ask this a lot, and you got a direct line on this. As you talk about your coaching tree, when you left from here and you move out of El Paso, what's that change like?
Oh, man, it's night and day. You going to Central Texas, I didn't know anybody in Central Texas. And so my understanding of what 2A was based on El Paso and West Texas. So I had no idea that when you get to Central Texas, that, in 2A, there's Mark right down the street, who's 9-time state champion. Franklin High School in Franklin, Texas, they're a perennial powerhouse. And China Springs in 3A, 4A was moving up, winning a lot of state titles. So I was really a fish out of water, so to speak. I didn't know anybody. I was lucky enough to get 2 coaches to go down there with me. But great experience, definitely learned a lot about myself. And the biggest thing for me was, I think being an El Paso guy and coaching here, and especially when I was coming up the ranks, there's a lot of great head coaches from, Alan Sepowitz was still coaching. Tom Work was still coaching. Of course, Scott Brooks, Jesse Perales, JJ Calderon, who's now an AD in Fort Worth. And Jesse's out there in the Metroplex. But I always felt like El Paso had really great coaching. It was just a matter of us bridging the talent, right? And so you kind of have a chip on your shoulder when you go out there because let's face it, you're Hispanic, you're coming from El Paso. We don't get a lot of respect across the state. And so there's definitely a chip on my shoulder. But I went out there, I had made some mistakes here that cost me a job. And I was lucky enough that Coach Walker hired me before I went back out to be the coordinator here. And I really wanted to find out what I could do. Like, how good was I? I felt like I was a really good coach. I felt like I had what it took to win at any level, at any part of the state. And so I went out there with a chip on my shoulder, got to know a lot of great people, and really reinvent myself, not only as a person, but as a coach and as a program builder. And so we had 3 great years there in Marlin, went to the state semifinals, coach of the year and all that stuff, Gordon Wood Award winner, which is probably the biggest award you could win as a team in the state of Texas. And so that community was going through some turmoil and turnover. Dr. Darrell Henson, the superintendent, hired me. And so we had a big task, and it wasn't just winning football games and turning that program around, but really turning around a whole community and saving a community. And so getting to meet some really great people down there in Marlin and in the Waco area, and then forging great friendships and coaching mentors out there was great. And so like I said, the first year we kind of shocked the world and went to the state semifinals, and we're a fumble away from going to the state game. Year 3, we went to the quarterfinals and fell short to a team that ended up going to state. And then I kind of took a step back and wanted to get back into 6A. So I went back to graduate school, and I'll be graduating this summer.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's been a pain in the ass. And then Jesse Perales hired me at Naaman Forest. And so I got back into 6A in the Metroplex, which was big, and that's just a whole other world in itself. And, Coach Perales has been a mentor of mine since I started coaching, even before I started coaching, really. And so over the years, a lot of my career has been because of his influence and his mentorship. So getting the opportunity to work for him for a year and learn from him really kind of elevated me even more. And I didn't expect to come back to El Paso. One of the things that I always did say, though, is if Franklin ever opened up, that's a job that I'd want to come back for. And so by the grace of God, my daughter's going to be a sophomore now at Chapin. And so I was missing a lot of time, and I felt like
Chapin is a great school. I'll still say that. We'll take it, do a quick great school. Anyway, go ahead.
No, it's great. It is a great school. And so, she's doing her thing in volleyball and just missing out on that. I get to see her in club, but it's not the same. In fact, I remember I came down for the bye week during her freshman year, hoping to see her play, and the game got canceled, so that sucked. And then my son's going into 7th grade, and so I feel like they've sacrificed a lot for me to kind of restart my career, reinvent my career, and like I said, it was God's plan for me to get back here, and so I'm very blessed that things worked out, and I'm here at Franklin. Having been here before, I understand the pressure, but I embrace the community and what they stand for and all the things that they bring to the table. And I think if there's one place here that you can win and win big and do it the right way, it's at Franklin High School.
Awesome. So that brings us to our next stop and kind of our next question. And that's here at Franklin High School. So year 1, coach, what's step 1? How are you going to build that new culture here? Put your stamp on it. Because like you said, hey, let's be quite honest. This is the perennial powerhouse on the west side. One of the nicer, newer schools in all of El Paso. It's beautiful. Got some great players over here. A great foundation. Tell us about how you're going to put your stamp on it going forward right now.
Well, the first thing when I came in and started rebuilding the staff, the biggest thing is the players, and kind of hit the reset button for them. And I think they deserve a lot of credit, as well as the coaches that were here with them during the spring. They had a long season with everything that they went through, with losing a player to a death in a car accident. And then, of course, the allegations surrounding the program in the
Right.
spring. And so the biggest thing was to hit the reset button. And we're coming in here with change. And I think when you look at around here at the history of Franklin, I'm the 4th head coach in the program's history. And that says a lot about the coaches that were here before me, from Milton Henry to Tony Grijalva, and of course to Darren Walker, who both my brother and I coached for. And you look around the city, there's a lot of head coaches from Darren Walker's tree. And so
Absolutely. Everywhere.
I hope that these allegations don't blemish, all the great things that he did for El Paso football and for the sport itself and our coaching profession. Having said that, it's my job now to come in here and elevate us. Winning district championships can't be our standard. Winning a first-round playoff game can't be our standard.
I love that you said that. But anyway, please continue, Coach.
And so I think if we want to get the recognition across the state, we've got to get into round 2 and win. We've got to be there in round 3. And then, at that point, you let the chips fall where they may. And Region 1, I feel like for us, is the toughest region in the state. When you look at how it lines up, I mean, we're big school 6A. So we're going to line up against Permian or Midland Legacy, which I still call them Midland Lee. I don't understand all that stuff, but whatever. Coach Hartman's a good friend of mine over at Legacy. And so I have a lot of respect for him and have learned from him. But we've got to get through those teams, and that should be the expectation. It's not just getting to round 1. Here at Franklin, we should be winning district titles every year. We should be winning by district. And now the next step in that progression is to win round 2 and start playing on Thanksgiving. And I think once you start setting that as the expectation, and the work and the programming and everything we do is to play, to work towards 16 weeks of football, not just 10 or 11, I think that mindset has to change. And so our kids right now and our coaching staff, they're buying into that, and they're starting to shift their mindset as far as the expectations of what we're doing and how we're working, how things are structured. And I think it takes somebody that has been there before to be able to do that. And so I've been blessed to have been, to round 5 and round 4 of the playoffs and what it takes. I think I look around and I remember that first year when we were on that semifinal run, the first person I called was Scott Brooks, and just asking him, like, how do you prepare in round 3?
Yeah.
How do you prepare for round 4? What's different? What did you do? What did you wish you would have done different? And so Scott was a huge, huge help to me. And, but having going through that, it's changed how I prepare, how I break down film, how we structure practice, how our off season looks, how our summer program looks. And then when you talk about bringing kids in as freshmen, for instance, we have a stud quarterback coming in, Elijah Badanietos, who I think is going to be really, really special and a name that you're going to hear a lot about. But you sit down with those kids as they're coming in and you start developing a plan for them as freshmen and with their parents. What's your goals? What level of college do you want to play at? Do you want to play college football? And that process has got to start when they're freshmen, not when all of a sudden they're a junior and then the colleges take notice. So I think there's just a lot of planning and organization to run a real program. I mean, I think people talk about, oh, I have a program, but do you have a real program? And there's a lot that goes into running a real program, and it's a year-round thing.
And